What was the learning curve, right? I think the very common argument that I see people at least looking from the outside from the software space, and when I even try to explain it to my colleagues, they certainly get overwhelmed with the hardware component, and then they
Yeah.
get even more overwhelmed with the physical and the sensor component. What was your initial thoughts when you looked at this? And I think, how did you learn it? I think obviously you didn't go back to college and said, I need to learn mechatronics
Yeah.
now, but there must
Mm.
have been some approach that you took to understand the OT side a bit better.
Yeah, the OT side was quite different in the many sense. Unfortunately, a little more difficult in many senses because I had my software background and I made these assumptions immediately. If I go out in Google, there's going to be courses, I can go to Stack Overflow, I can ask people everything, and that wasn't the case, right? So OT is really, if you want to have some theory, there are some things on the web, but you have to go to a course or something. But again, I was very lucky because I got into a project quite early where they had PLCs and they basically asked me, do you know anything about PLCs? And I lied. And I said, yeah, I know what that is. So they just gave me the project and I was like, okay, now I'm in deep trouble. I have to fix this. Learning by doing. And then just, I mean, the documentation. So in this case, it was Beckhoff and the documentation back then, like over 10 years ago, wasn't the best. It was a prerequisite, I would say, a definite prerequisite. And definitely, and this is why I'm pushing for it so much, was that I could download the development environment and I could just play. I could play like a child. I could experiment. I could just try stuff and I could see how is this similar to what I'm used to. But that was really a thing. The entrance had to be low. I don't think, for example, absolutely to be honest, if the development environment costs some money, even if I had money, if it was, I would probably not consider it. I'm not going to even try this. Being able to play around on my desk, not having to be somewhere in a special place. Just if I was writing some Python code, I do Python, I download the development environment, and I just chip, and I'm up and running. Yeah,
And I was gonna say, I think that's the unfortunate maybe reality of our industry, right? Because at the end of the day, it's very, I would say, inaccessible to engineers who are, I think, very interested in the field. But as you said, a lot of the development environments of manufacturers we're not going to necessarily name are going to be cost
mm,
prohibitive. But also, in many instances, and we were talking about this a little bit off stream, right? You cannot simulate to the same degree that you could with a platform like Beckhoff and some of the others, right? I think
yeah,
we talk in
definitely.
generalities, but some of them make it very available versus the other ones. It's just you have to buy the hardware, you have to buy the software or the license in order to learn the platform. And to be honest with you, I talked to many, I want to say, students who are up and coming on the electrical or the software side, and they tell me it's just too difficult. And I think we've all struggled, when you're just eating ramen and pizza,
Yeah,
trying to
yeah,
make the payments on your courses to afford some of these platforms. And that's just, I think it's slowly changing, I guess, if I would
yeah.
say it, but not
Yeah,
fast
and
enough.
it's a missed opportunity for the industry because the common argument I hear, primarily from manufacturers, but also from people that are already in the industry, is yeah, but the people that are already in the industry, the companies, they can afford it. And yeah, they can, but that's not the important thing. If we want to get new people with new ideas in, then we can't just rely on the ones that are already in, that can get a foot in on a workplace that can afford a $3,000 license to test it. It just has to be much easier than that. Obviously there's many other things than software, right? The big shock for me was, okay, there's the software part, but I would say it's almost like it's a minority. It's all the electrical things, it's mechanical things, it's operational things, working with operators. How do I make this system being able to work for 20, 30 years? And that was never like a discussion in the traditional software industry, not for all systems. Obviously you can work in the defense industry, you can work in medical, then things like this are going to show up. But that was like always as a given. If the people I met that were in the industry already, they talked software, but I realized these people are really smart. They know a lot of other things that I have never even thought about.